Howdy, Tech Drover back again. Not here to dunk on tech, I'm here to make it suck less. So when I say IP, do you think investment portfolio? Do you think internet protocol? Do you think you need to go to the bathroom? I'll give you a hint. It's intellectual property. It's probably the one thing your team's not thinking about when you're developing your products, building your business. We need to fix that before your next big idea becomes someone else's product. IP is crucial, not just for startups, but for mid-sized companies. Unless you're some enterprise that's been around for 100 years and got a well-known name and huge advertising budget, IP is core. It's your secret sauce. It's your process, your technology. It's a thing that makes your business your business. It's the core to how you deliver value to your customers. And if you lose that, you got nothing. You're just a commodity. Anybody can do it, and then you're just competing on price, maybe marketing. It's not your React front end. It's not your integration to some back end off-the-shelf system. It's not your AI prompt. It's that core value. And if someone else can copy your tech by looking at your landing page, you ain't got nothing. You're generating it with AI and not adding value. Anybody can do that, except they'll have your product to look at to tell the AI what to build. So it's got to do something that's uniquely yours, something that customers care about. You know, in some companies, they do it right. They've got a team of engineers and scientists in the back end building out their IP, and then they have developers building the supporting technology. You know, breakfast food company, their IP is their breakfast food recipes. Their business systems, their mobile app, their website, that's all supporting technology. Their core value is their recipes. You know, and I've done it too. I built biometric solutions for mobile apps. Yeah, I used an off-the-shelf image processing library, but the way I used it, the technology I built around it to make it much more functional in the real world, that was our core IP. Then I had a developer build the supporting tech, turning it into an app. Especially if you're a startup, if you don't have good IP, you've got a lower valuation. You're easier to copy. Some other startup's going to come along and steal your idea. So you got to define it, you got to build it, you got to manage it. It's got to be built internally too. You can't use off-the-shelf contractors who just care about billable hours. Yeah, maybe you find a trusted technology consultant to help you define it and build it, but it's still got to be something that's yours and something that's not shared. You might think patents protect it. Patents they're interesting. You got to define everything in the patent, how it works. You got to document everything, which means anybody can read it. And software patents are really hard to get. That's, you know, internationally it's a problem. Every country has their own patent laws. You know, just because you have it patented in one country doesn't mean it's protected in another. You know, you got to make sure that it's protected. And again, that gets back to not sharing it. And by the way, if you find developers who are sharing your IP in an interview to go somewhere else, you need to get rid of those developers. Also, patents run out. They don't last forever. You know, they may outlast the value of your code, but you know, there's a lot of code out there that's really old that businesses still use. You know, one of the most closely guarded secrets in business is that recipe for that sugary soft drink from that Georgia company. They never patented it. They never exposed it in any way. They keep it internally. And if someone else gets a hold of it, you bet they're going to sue. So if you think about patents as a protection, you got to remember, the only protection you have is to sue somebody. And if a big company steals your idea, they can string you along for years, decades. They got lawyers, they got money. And you got to make sure that your IP is real. It's not, as I said, it's not AI generated. You're not just pulling together off-the-shelf stuff. Anybody can do that. So what are some recommendations? Define your core IP, how it fits with your business. You know, maybe it's the science of how you collect data for a biometric application. Maybe it's the way you process data and handle it much faster than competitors. But you got to define it, you got to protect it. You got to build it internally or use extremely trusted consultants. Don't use contractors who only care about billable hours. You got to grow your IP. You can't just build it once, lock it away, use it for products, and never touch it again. You got to keep expanding it, adding value. The world is not a static place. You got to keep making it better, delivering more value to your customers. Now, always think about your customers. As I said, limit access. Don't show it to anybody. And if you find out somebody's sharing it with maybe a competitor or anyone else, you got to do something about it. Be careful of code generation, third-party tools. Again, those aren't IP. You're just putting your front end on someone else's IP. And lastly, avoid those experts. They throw out advice like people who tell you how to raise your kids who never had kids. You know, keep your focus on your business, your value while you're there. Don't try to take too many shortcuts, because if you do, anybody else can do it. So, thanks for listening. Next up, are you an engineer or a developer? And remember, if your tech's gone off the rails, call a drover. I wrangle messes into momentum.